Hello, this is John Mark Gray, and today we're delving into the compelling world of a literary titan, an author whose name became synonymous with a genre, John Grisham. We'll explore his monumental impact, the enduring appeal of his stories, and how his work has captivated millions, myself included. John Grisham wasn't born into literary stardom, he forged it. A practicing lawyer in Mississippi, he famously conceived the idea for his first novel, A Time to Kill, after witnessing the gut-wrenching testimony of a 12-year-old rape victim at the DeSoto County Courthouse in Mississippi. It was from this authentic wellspring of legal experience that he began to ponder, I can write those legal thrillers well. And indeed, he did. With an almost unprecedented trajectory, he quickly transformed from a small-town attorney to the undisputed, reigning monarch of the legal thriller genre, defining its very contours for decades. For me, the undisputed king among Grisham's vast bibliography is The Firm. It's not even a contest. This book, the second he ever wrote but the first meticulously outlined, is by far his finest achievement. I, who am not typically a fast reader, devoured it. It was, and remains, a genuine page-turner, a masterclass in suspense and narrative propulsion. Published in 1991, The Firm wasn't just a book. It was a phenomenon, spending an astonishing 47 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list and selling over 7 million copies in hardcover and paperback. What made it so exceptional? It was a meticulously crafted labyrinth of legal intrigue, corporate espionage, and a young, ambitious lawyer caught in a web of unimaginable danger. Mitch McDear, fresh out of Harvard Law, is seduced by the allure of a small, hyper-exclusive Memphis law firm, only to discover its sinister ties to the mafia. The novel expertly blends the minutiae of legal practice with high-stakes thriller elements, creating a claustrophobic sense of paranoia that grips the reader from the first page. It tapped into a primal fear. What happens when the very institutions designed to protect us become instruments of corruption? And yes, it was infinitely superior to its hugely successful 1993 film adaptation starring Tom Cruise. Despite the movie's star power and critical acclaim, it grossed over $270 million worldwide. The film, while entertaining, necessarily sacrificed much of the intricate plotting and character depth that made the novel a masterpiece of sustained tension. Starting one's career with such an explosive, genre-defining hit often presents a peculiar challenge. Where do you go from there? For many authors, it's all downhill. I read many of Grisham's books close to their initial release, and I distinctly recall a moment, around the fifth book after The Firm, where a thought solidified in my mind. If John Grisham's name weren't emblazoned on the cover, I probably wouldn't be reading this book. This reveals the immense power of authorial branding, a phenomenon Grisham perfected. His name alone became a reliable promise of a certain type of reading experience. Accessible, fast-paced, legally informed, and always with a compelling moral dilemma at its core. Yet, in my estimation, each subsequent legal thriller, while still enjoyable, never quite recaptured the lightning-in-a-bottle brilliance of The Firm. The initial spark of originality, the shocking reveal, seemed to diminish slightly, giving way to a more predictable, albeit still satisfying, formula. Take, for instance, The Pelican Brief, published just a year after The Firm in 1992. It too was a commercial juggernaut, selling millions and spawning a successful film starring Julia Roberts and Denzel Washington. While a step down from The Firm's intricate plotting, it was still a genuinely enjoyable read. The narrative, a brilliant law student uncovers a vast conspiracy behind the assassinations of two Supreme Court justices, had a compelling premise. I particularly appreciated the well-drawn characters and the vivid, almost cinematic, settings, which gave the story a certain kick and maintained an intriguing sense of urgency. However, the perceived decline became more pronounced with The Exchange, marketed as a long-awaited sequel to The Firm, published in 2023. While I was initially excited, drawn in by the evocative cover and familiar format, the book ultimately felt like a protracted setup, a missed opportunity. It felt as though Grisham sketched numerous potential narrative paths but failed to commit to any single, compelling through line, resulting in a meandering plot that lacked the original's focused intensity and thrilling payoff. What could have been a deep dive into Mitch McDear's post-witness protection life or a sophisticated exploration of international law often felt like a series of disconnected vignettes. The promising pro bono work and the prison suicide subplot, which seemed to tap into Grisham's genuine passion for advocating for the wrongly incarcerated, a cause he supports through the Innocence Project, felt underdeveloped. Instead of exploring these profound themes, the book largely devolved into a glossy travelogue, updating characters' lives with little narrative consequence, showcasing pleasant restaurants, great food, and picturesque scenery. It lacked the sharp twists and profound moral stakes that define his best work, ultimately feeling more like a convenient opportunity to revisit beloved characters than a necessary narrative progression. It left me wondering if it was, perhaps, more of a cash grab for the publisher, leaning heavily on the brand without delivering the substance. More recently, I found myself drawn to The Testament. This novel stood out from his typical legal thrillers. The audacious premise, a dying, immensely wealthy businessman deliberately orchestrating a bazaar to disinherit his conniving heirs and leave his fortune to an unknown, evangelical missionary daughter in the Brazilian Pantanal, was captivating. The dramatic opening scene, with the old man's suicide, immediately hooked me. While some might find elements of it sappy, with its focus on redemption and spiritual awakening for characters battling addiction, I appreciated its deviation from Grisham's usual formula. The vivid Brazilian setting, the plane crash, and the protagonist's physical and spiritual journey in the wilderness offered a refreshing change of pace and scenery from the typical courtroom drama. It showed Grisham's willingness to explore themes beyond purely legal machinations, delving into faith, legacy, and the search for meaning. Another enjoyable departure from his legal-centric narratives came with Camino Winds. Having lived in a hurricane-prone region myself, I was immediately drawn to its island setting and the suspense generated by a looming storm. The novel, centered around a writer investigating a murder during a hurricane, resonated deeply with my own appreciation for literature and storytelling. It's light reading, a perfect beach book that offers a pleasant escape from daily pressures without demanding too much intellectual heavy lifting. The characters, though numerous, were engaging enough to follow, and the overarching mystery provided a gentle narrative current. This, along with its predecessors Camino Island and the subsequent Camino Ghosts, forms a delightful series that provides reliable comfort reading. Indeed, I often think of John Grisham's books as literary comfort food. I grew up with them, eagerly anticipating each new release and often queuing at the library as soon as they hit the shelves. This personal connection, shared by millions, speaks to his ability to create a consistent, reliable reading experience. Part of this comfort extends beyond the plot. It's about the physical book itself. I'm quite particular about the aesthetic of a book, the font size, the spacing between lines, the tactile feel of the pages. Grisham's hardcovers, which I now almost exclusively read, hardcover formats that is, consistently deliver this satisfying reading experience, a welcome antidote to the cramped text of many paperbacks and assorted hardcovers these days. Grisham's astonishing productivity, releasing a new novel almost every year for decades, is also something I deeply respect. This sustained work ethic, a testament to his dedication regarding his craft, is a rare feat in the publishing world, reminiscent of other prolific authors like Stephen King. This consistency has created a dependable brand, ensuring a steady stream of new stories for his loyal readership. While it's true that the era of nearly every Grisham book being adapted into a major motion picture has waned, reflecting a shift in Hollywood's priorities and perhaps a diversification of Grisham's storytelling, his books remain remarkably good value. It's often possible to find his hardcovers, with their distinctively good formatting, for under $15, making them one of the best buys for your entertainment buck in this runaway inflationary world. So, while the landscape of publishing and popular entertainment continues to evolve, John Grisham's legacy endures. His books are more than just stories. They are cultural touchstones, reliable sources of escapism, and, for many, like me, deeply comforting companions. I have many more of his works waiting on my bookshelf, and I know I will continue to savor each one, a steady diet of literary comfort food for the soul.